Hey fifth graders, we are going to talk about rounding decimal numbers to the nearest whole number, all right? So let's take a look at this. Okay, so I reminded us here, and I put it in red because we're stopping, okay, that when we round, if the number that we're looking at to decide to round is 4 or less, we stay. If it's 5 or more, we round up or go. It's in green. Okay, so that's going to help us remember. Okay, so I've got some numbers here. Let's look at this number first. Okay, 3 and 654 thousandths. All right, so if we are rounding to the nearest whole number, what I like to do is underline the place that we're multiplying to. Or I'm sorry, rounding to. Okay, so if I'm rounding to the nearest whole number, the whole number in this one is 3. Okay, so I am rounding to that place. And then I like to draw a little arrow to the one that I look at to decide. So I draw my arrow to the number directly behind it. That's the number I look at to decide. So when I think about this, I'm thinking about this arrowed number. Okay, so that number is 6. If I look up here, is it 4 or less or 5 or more? You're right, it's 5 or more. So I'm going to round this underlined number up 1. Okay, so if I round to the nearest whole number, this becomes 4 because my 3 rounds up 1 because the 6 is 5 or more. Okay, let's look at the next one. Okay, I've got 1 and 24 hundredths. Okay, so I'm rounding to the nearest whole number. What is my whole number? Yes, my 1. What number will I look at to decide? Yes, the number right behind it, the 2. In these cases, it's going to be in the 10th place, but it's not always the 10th place. So that's why I say the number right behind it. So now I'm looking at this number, and that's where I go up here, is my arrow number. 4 or less, I stay. 5 or more, I round up. So 2. You got it. It's 4 or less, so my 1 is going to stay. So if I round this, it is just 1. Let's take a look at 2 more. 10 and 9 tenths. Okay, nearest whole number. The nearest whole number place is the first place in front of the decimal. I would not underline this whole thing, although you could, but we're only rounding one place value, okay? So I would just underline this one, because we're just looking at 1. Okay, the nearest whole number, the nearest ones. And then my arrow goes to my 9. I say to myself, is that 4 or less or 5 or more? You got it, it's 5 or more, so I give this 1 more. It becomes 11. So 10 and 9 tenths is rounded to the nearest whole number of 11. Okay, 43.1456. Okay, what number am I going to underline? You got it, I'm underlining the 3 because it's the first whole number. Okay, where does my arrow go? My arrow goes back to the 1, the number right behind it. I say to myself, 1, is that 4 or less or 5 or more? You're right, it's 4 or less, so I'm staying. Okay, this stays 43. Okay, so notice what happens here. Everything behind my underlined number is gone. If it's a decimal, it's just gone. Okay? Now, if I was doing whole numbers, everything behind there would change to zeros. But even if I changed that to zeros, we talked about this yesterday. Is this the same number as 43? Yes, it is. But yesterday we talked about simplifying and taking those zeros off the end of a decimal. So 43 would be our simplest answer. All right, let's try one more, fifth graders. Okay, I gave us a bigger number, but that's okay. What number are we going to underline that we are looking at if we are rounding to the nearest whole number? You got it, we're looking at the 5. And what number tells us if we round or not? If we round up or stay? You're right, we draw our arrow to the 3. So is 3 4 or less or 5 or more? You're right, it's 4 or less, so we're going to stay. So remember, these are just gone because they're after my underlined and they're decimals. So my number is 1765. 1765. All right, 5th graders, good luck with this. We'll see you later. Have a great weekend.